Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I rise today to discuss or debate in this place Bill C-574, a Retirement Income Bill of Rights. As reform to Canada's retirement system is a key principle to which the NDP is dedicated, I was pleased to hear that my Liberal colleague from York West had tabled a bill relating to pension reform, and I guess in my haste kind of thought it might be something around Nortel's situation, especially with the long-term disabilities. In fact, when the member herself spoke earlier today, she mentioned it. So I was a little bit surprised at this bill. But having said this, however, upon reading the actual bill, I came away concerned as to what the actual goal of this bill is. The bill purports to create a retirement bill of rights within the authority of the Parliament of Canada, which sounds in principle at least like something both myself and my party, the NDP, would be pleased to support wholeheartedly. In fact, we proposed and the House passed previously a seniors charter in this place, yet the government hasn't implemented that. Now, the provisions of Bill 574 would apply to retirement plans established by employers that are federally regulated, and you heard the Block's concerns a few moments ago regarding provincial jurisdiction. Such firms as Air Canada, Canadian National Railways, or Bell Canada. Now, this bill seeks to create a number of individual rights related to pension income and retirement, such as a right to accumulate sufficient pension income for retirement, the right to determine how and when pension income should be accumulated, a right to the full, accurate, and timely disclosure of the risks, which I think is a very important part of what's in this bill. But as I hear in this place people saying, these things already exist. Now, in principle, this sounds very good. Let's ensure that there's protection for seniors out there when they do make their investments. But does this raise one nickel extra in pension value for seniors? I don't think so. But the sections of the bill that brought about the concern that I talked about, a little kind of a wonderment, if anything, is not so much to do with the bill's stated principles, but with its execution, or I should say lack of execution. As I read the bill, it seemed to be that it must have been kind of hastily put together, as if the drafters ran out of time and had to turn to an earlier draft. Mr. Speaker, most of this bill's provisions are declaratory. For instance, it declares rights but fails to amend appropriate legislation in order to establish them. The bill calls for increased transparency with respect to the management of pension funds, even though most of these funds, again, as the Block has indicated, are provincially regulated. Now, it's a good thing, again, certainly in principle, but in fact, Bill 574 proposes no amendments to the Pension Benefit Standard Act or to any other acts that would require amendment in order for the bill to accomplish its stated goal, such as the Canada Pension Plan, the Old Age Security Act, or the Income Tax Act. Mr. Speaker, you will know that the Pension Benefit Standard Act currently applies to pension plans of employees working for federally regulated employers or businesses. Bill 574 does not give any information nor clarifies how the rights created under the bill would apply to employers or employees regulated under the Pension Benefit Standards Act. And as I mentioned earlier, the bill also does not propose any amendments to the Pension Benefit Standards Act. Now, Section 4 of the bill states that every individual Canadian has the right to accumulate sufficient pension income in a retirement income plan subject to any reasonable restrictions imposed by federal law. That's in place now. These reasonable restrictions are not elaborated on, nor the federal statutes that contain a number of the restrictions. So we're left to wonder just how these changes are purported to take place. The bill is silent on defining what sufficient pension income means. Now, in the presentation of the bill from the member of York West, she talked about a goal of 70% of income, which is a goal that's lauded around the world, but very few countries have, if any, reached that goal. But what percentage of pre-retirement income do the Liberals feel is sufficient for Canadians to live a dignified retirement? Is it 60%? Is it 50%? It doesn't say, because the bill doesn't tell us. In addition, it seems the bill does not amend or refer to the Canada Pension Act, the Old Age Security Act, or the Income Tax Act, which also provide for pensions or contain provisions that regulate the amount an individual can transfer into a pension plan. One can only then assume, for example, that the maximum amount a person could transfer into an RRSP or the maximum contributions a Canadian could make to the Canada Pension Plan would not be changed by reason of Bill C-574. Moreover, the bill also imposes certain obligations on professionals in the financial services field who administer retirement income plans or who provide financial advice on retirement plans. Knowing that the financial services sector, apart from banking, is largely subject to provincial regulation, consequently, it is not clear how this Parliament, through Bill 574, could possibly regulate the financial service sectors. For these reasons, it's difficult to understand the exact purpose of this bill, and especially its financial implications when it be put into practice. For example, Air Canada has a retirement plan for its employees. If an individual decides to go to work for Air Canada, he or she would accept the work conditions and the benefits established under the collective agreement. It is here that it is not clear where the provisions of Bill C-574 would come into effect. Would the bill allow an individual to contribute more to Air Canada's retirement plan than what would have been provided under the employment contract or collective agreement? We don't know. It's difficult to understand how this could be done in a practical fashion. So in short, Mr. Speaker, it seems to me that Bill C-574 is a bill that should have been a motion. Nevertheless, the NDP wants to encourage the other parties to work towards real reform in retirement income systems, and in that spirit, the New Democrats will support C-574 going to committee so that we can take a closer look at actually what can be done with this bill. In the meantime, I'd like to put forward some of the concrete proposals that we've put forward over the last 2 years. Eliminating seniors' poverty. The member spoke of, York West spoke of seniors' poverty. Well, the poverty gap is about $700 million, and that could be put forward by the government to, by increasing GIS to close that gap. We talked about strengthening CPP, QPP. Well, 93% of Canadians are already members of CPP, QPP. We want to phase in the doubling of it. A national system of workplace pension insurance, Mr. Speaker. It's self-financing. It would be a mandatory insurance system funded by the plan sponsors with a payout of up to $2,500 a month. And fourth, let's ensure that the companies in bankruptcies make good on the pensions they owe the workers. Today, when companies go bankrupt, the shortfall in the workplace pension plan, what's called an unfunded liability, doesn't receive priority as a creditor. But workplace pensions are nothing less than unpaid, deferred wages. Workers should have the right to receive these wages, especially when the company goes under. Our Nortel Act puts workplace pension plans at the same creditor category as bondholders and other investors. Now, fifth, in bankruptcies, workplace pension plans may be wound up and converted into low-interest annuities. Pensioners would often be better off if those plans lived on as going concerns. So we suggested creating a facility adjacent or part of the CPP, they could manage it, to adopt these pension plans. And I've heard the Liberals of late talking about the orphan plan, so I'm glad to see that they've been listening to us. It's time for the government to acknowledge that pensions are deferred wages. These wages should be there in their entirety when an employee retires. They are not bonuses paid to the workers at the end of their working lives. They are part of an agreed-upon compensation package for hours worked. Retirement security has long been a priority with this party, the NDP. In fact, we heard them talk about 1966 a few minutes ago. Well, in 1927, it was the Independent Labour Party, a precursor to the NDP, that proposed old age security. It was the NDP's Stanley Knowles, and people in this place who have been here a few years will remember Stanley Knowles for his fight for the Canada Pension Plan. And it was a minority Liberal government that put that in. I believe the year was 1966, if I recall correctly. So our party will continue to use our leverage in this place until such time as all seniors are able to live out their retirement years with the dignity that they deserve, that they've earned as part of helping Canada grow to be the great place that it is today. So I don't want to totally fault what's coming forward, because the words are good that are in this bill. It's just the actions that are required to implement it. How do we get to the place where we can actually increase the living standard of seniors today, right now? And that, to my mind, is an increase to old age security, in GIS to deal with the ones below the poverty line, of which, Mr. Speaker, of the close to 300,000, over 60% are single women. And for me, that's always been a national disgrace. So thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Resuming debate.